let's talk about Lahaina because I just recently went back. This is the channel, by the way. If you want to go see Lahaina on fire, go to my YouTube, Pasta to Go, right there, and you can check it on out. We have a new logo coming out soon that we're working on. We're almost finalizing that, so that's pretty cool. But that's Jamie did some of that work over there. You can see me there. It's CPJ, Craig Pasta Jardula.
It looks like a restaurant logo.
Well, it's a lot of pasta to go, and it's a lot of the stuff on the go. I got the video when we were just in Nicaragua recently. I have finishing up, and any time we go any place, fam, I'm going to highlight the food we eat, the clothes we buy, any of that stuff, a little bit more of the culture. Like I said, it's a channel where it's going to be across, and I tend to start doing some monologues when I'm in the studio. That Tucker was once famous for doing his good monologues. I really liked when he did monologues. So the show is going to be a cross between Anthony Bourdain, Tucker Carlson, and Bobby Bacala from The Sopranos, fam, who was my favorite character on The Sopranos. For those out there who know who Bobby Bacala is, he was my favorite. He ended up marrying Janice. He was the guy who was considered the nice guy. He was a different guy than all the other wise guys, and he loved his Italian food. In doing so, the spirit of the new channel, Pasta to Go, we went out to Lahaina 30 days after the fire, and we made a documentary. And that documentary is on Pasta to Go. If you haven't checked it out, please check it out. It's Lahaina on Fire Volume 1. And just recently, I came back from filming Part 2, Lahaina on Fire, this Volume 2, in which we were able to follow up. Now, fam, I highlighted 3 things that I learned when I went there. One, that there's no transparency. People are still not getting answers on why there was such a breakdown in emergency services during the fire, and why the water was turned off, why the police were still hurling people back in, why the alarms never sounded, why people didn't get notifications, why they told the fire was put out and then it was still, it went back, it inflamed again. So they never got all these answers on why there was so many breakdowns in the emergency services, and they're still not getting answers. The second part we highlighted of the problems going on in Lahaina right now is what we said would be the biggest problem: housing. And this really, fam, this plays into that question of libertarianism versus socialism. When libertarianism, which is a form of capitalism, free market capitalism, the government doesn't get involved. You'll hear every single libertarian out there cry that we've never had true capitalism because the government's got involved, and as it's crony capitalism. And you'll hear a lot of people who like yourself, who we've never really have any true form of communism, right? We've never been able to attain it. But what do you do in a situation where you have all these people who are displaced, you have fire victims whose houses burnt down, their community burnt down, and they have nowhere to go? If you don't do anything and you just let the free market do its own thing, you're going to have what you have in the situation in Lahaina. And I'm going to have on in Pasta to Go today at 6 p.m. I'm going to have on Angela McCardle. She is the chair of the Libertarian Party, and we're going to discuss this. What do you do? What role should the government play? Because they should do something. And I believe in good governance. I believe if we had a fair election system and you had actual representation that's going to represent the will of the people, that they need to do something. In this situation over here, and Jamie, you can put it up, whatever you got there, fishing for housing or fishing for Lahaina. What they've done, fam, and I'm very curious to hear your point. You go ahead and show the title real quick. Is that 28 groups, 28 grassroots organizations, and I think it's even growing now, fam, launch Fish In for Dignified Housing at Kana'apali Beach. Now, Kana'apali Beach is a beach that's just north of Lahaina. It's a ritzy area over there. A lot of tourists go there, and they've done this in front of a big ritzy area, Whalers Village, which is a nice area to stop outside, and then the Westin Hotel right there. There's restaurants that overlook the beach. What they're saying, fam, is that because of their ancestry laws, which state if you are fishing on the beach, you have to stay overnight and camp out on the beach. So what they've done is they set up all these fishing poles out there, and these 28 groups then set up tents in front of these ritzy areas and making demands to the mayor and to the governor. The mayor can even act an emergency proclamation. There's something, fam, called the Minatoya list, and it's a list of 2,200 properties, fam, that are short-term properties. Pretty much, if you have an Airbnb, you have to register in Maui. And what they're saying is that the mayor needs to enact an emergency proclamation, turning that short-term housing into long-term housing. Now, the mayor and the governor are hesitant to do this because they know they're going to get sued by the individual owners of those Airbnbs. But it really comes into play, fam, our isms right here. It's a fascinating story that's going on right now in Lahaina. What role should the government do? What role should they have? Because me personally, I think that if the mayor, and they have the money, supposedly, you know, they see all this money that's allocated everywhere. Ellie Cochran, who is a state representative for the district of Lahaina, for the city of Lahaina, she is that House representative. She's even said there's millions of dollars supposedly that's into Lahaina, but where are they spending it? Well, if the mayor were to go to these people on the Minatoya list and offer them 50% above market rate over rental rates right now, as high as can be, but if they were to offer them 50% above market rate, say we'll provide the insurance, and that the owner of the property can also be involved in the selection of the Lahaina survivor or the victim to go into their spot, I'm pretty sure, fam, that a lot of these owners would take that deal. But they kind of have this hands-off approach and say, hey, do you guys want to convert that short-term housing into long-term housing? Tell these people, these owners, hey, we'll put your name in lights over here. Help provide housing to these people who have no place to go. Because here's the thing, fam, at the end of the month, in just 2 days, supposedly a big chunk of that housing closes down. And in mid-December, fam, another big part of that housing, the Red Cross programs, closes down. And fam, you know what it's like. You've talked to people in California when they have this temporary housing by the Red Cross or any other groups. It's very inconvenient. They shuffle you around from hotel room to hotel room. They can come in an inspection for any time. And we've heard the same stories when we're in Lahaina, the same type of headaches. They've thrown people out of hotel rooms, fam, for having rice cookers. You know what I'm saying? So it's a crazy situation. But this is the point where I think good governance, right, is important. Get over there and tell these people, help us out. We'll give you 50% more than the long-term yearly rental rate, and we'll give you that money, and we'll secure you, and we'll have the insurance for you. So, fam, I'm wondering what you think, because I'm wondering what Angela McCardle is going to say and all the other libertarians. What role does the government have? Should they get involved?
Well, that's the thing. I feel like it's too late. The government should have, if they had a good government, the government would have never let these people go on house. These people would have had money given to them to rebuild similar houses that they had before. They would, if they didn't own their homes, they would have been given money to put them into an apartment for a long amount of time until they were able to rebuild their lives and find work. A good government seeks, this is why you can't have a system that doesn't involve government at all, at least right now, where society is at in the United States, because you need these social safety nets when things like this happen. And when you have either bad government or no government, then you left these people out in the streets is basically what ends up happening. So whether you have a libertarian aspect where, people just are out in the streets and then they have to figure out what they're doing and rely on their community. Sure, people should always rely on their community for help, but the communities that have all been affected can only help so much because they've all been affected. So this is why a government's supposed to be there, to have the backing of the people in case this happens. When you have house insurance, when you have when you own a home, you're supposed to get that money back. You're supposed to rebuild. The same thing with a car. When your car crashes, you're supposed to get money back to buy a new one, or to get it fixed. But if you don't have a good system in place, what ends up happening is what's happening in Lahaina, is where you have the system actually that you have in place is working at the behest of these corporations that are going to completely use the situation to make themselves rich. We're talking about disaster capitalism. We're talking about the fact that they're going to exploit this situation in Lahaina to buy up all of this property and put these people out of their homes. And then you're going to have the corporations come in. You're going to have them build luxury housing, luxury hotels, and these people will have to move out of the area. And that's what ends up happening in every single disaster, whether it's a hurricane or a tornado or something like that, in an area that is a highly touristy spot. It happens in Puerto Rico. It's been happening in Puerto Rico for decades now. And the problem with the Airbnbs is that, you know, the people who own the Airbnbs make a lot of money, but the people who rent them are finding themselves paying so much more money. And we saw this in LA. We see this everywhere, but we saw it especially in California, where it's becoming unaffordable to rent an apartment at a decent rate. So my opinion is, honestly, you can't argue a libertarian perspective for this, because a libertarian perspective, I guarantee you, will involve relying on their community and building stuff themselves. But again, that's more of a collectivist perspective. If we're looking at it, if we're relying on our community, if we're coming together to help each other out, aren't you looking at a collectivist point of view? Aren't you looking at a community point of view? You know, this is why the individualist culture doesn't work all the time, because when things happen, you need to rely on a community. And if the community has all been affected, you need to rely on the government. But the problem is that the government that we have right now, and this is why people hate government in the United States, is completely devoid of being able to provide. It is completely corrupt. It is completely just focused on itself and on not providing for the people. So it is as useless as having no government. And that's the problem that people in the US face right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how this is going to turn on out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't, you know, it's kind of, I'm just kind of like a little bit dumbfounded by the whole situation sometimes, because it's like, well, what role should the government have? You know, I mean, this is kind of like, are you going to force these people to rent out their apartments? But like I said, I mean, I believe, and I think we've always believed, fam, me and you, that there's a possibility if you have fair elections, you can have good governance, right? You could have good governance, and
Right.
the money is there. You know, go tell these people, hey, man, you give these people housing, we're going to give you 50% more than the, you know, they have that money, right? We spend so much money on all these other wars, all these other foreign interventions. Man, how much money do we give to Israel alone every single year? We can't give this money to these people in Lahaina to get them housed. I mean, close to $200 million, and you can probably house the people for a year, and you can take care of it. Another problem that's existing over there too, fam, is these tiny houses. So we have all these tiny houses. There's been tiny houses that have been donated to Lahaina, tiny houses that other people have been put up, but the HOAs are stopping them and getting them shut down. I was actually driving out of Lahaina, going to the airport, right? I was driving in Maui towards the airport, and I saw a stack of those housings that went in and got there early, but they've never been erected. They've never been put up. And then we've been hearing stories about how the HOAs have been shutting it down. The zoning issues in Maui is crazy. Homeowners Association sues to stop tiny home builder in Lahaina. And this is my friend right here. I didn't get to see him this time out, but I got to see him the first time out, because we went to the area where they were building these domes, fam. And this guy's name is Alfie. Alfie lost 2 properties in Lahaina, were burnt down to a crisp. And he wanted to erect a little tiny home village right here like that, where these little houses, people can live in them, right? And he was shut down. He was shut down by the HOA, and it's not the only story like this in Lahaina right now where they're shutting down this housing, fam. It's really sad. And once again, you ask yourself, okay, the HOAs have shut this down. What role should the government play? Because if the government doesn't play any role, right, what happens? These people leave. They have no place to go. You know what I'm saying? So something needs to be done. If nothing's done, then people of Lahaina, and you're talking about the indigenous people, the people who've lived there for quite some time, they have to go. Let's play the video real quick, Jamie, and show it. So,
a businessman who's hoping to build tiny homes for displaced Lahaina residents is now being sued.
That's right. KITV4's Kristen Concilio spoke today with Alfie Bracerto, who may now have to scale back his plans.
Alfie Bracerto's already lost his businesses and home in the Lahaina fires, and he's now facing a lawsuit.
at a time when all of us need to contribute to the solution.
Trying to stop him from building more than a dozen tiny homes in a gated community above Lahaina.
I never thought that these guys would go as far as to, file a complaint in court to prevent emergency housing.
The Pu'unoa Homeowners Association is suing Baserto and his associates for grading the land without a permit. Before the fires, Baserto planned to build a luxury tiny home village in the West Maui Hills on 2.5 acres of land. His goal has now shifted to letting families live there for free for up to 2 years to get back on their feet. A representative of the managing company for the association, Hawaiiana Management, would not comment on the litigation.
It breaks my heart knowing people are going to have to leave the West Side. Like that alone, leaving the West Side is hard. Leaving Maui, even harder.
Kristen Concilio, KITV4, Island News.
And I did this story on Jimmy when I was running the Jimmy Dore show, when I was filling in for him. And I got really emotional because I know this man. And when they were showing them, fam, erecting those houses, I was there when they were doing that and they were presenting that. And it was like, okay, we just got to tape it up. Remember, I said from the get-go, the most important thing that we can do is help these people stay on that island. And this is me and Alfie right there in Lahaina on Fire, volume 1. A lot of people are very, fixated, fam, on talking about what started this fire. Space laser, energy weapon, geoengineering, weather modification, global warming, whatever the case may be. I didn't want to, I touched on it, and but I concentrated on what we need to do. And right now, what we need to do is help these people stay there. You can see what Alfie said. Leaving the West Side is one thing, and having to leave Maui altogether. And that's the reality of what people are facing. You know what I'm saying? It's people are going to have to leave the island if we can't find a way to provide the necessary means to keep them there. And that's what, I witnessed when I went out to Maui for the second time. You know what I'm saying?
But that's the point, right? That's what these companies want. That's what the real estate, like the real estate lobbyists. That's the BlackRock ones. That's what all these people want. I mean, that they want to buy up all this land and build their hotels and their luxury residential buildings. And again, the HOA, the HOA fees, I hate the homeowners associations. They literally, the amount of fees that they put on people. If you want to buy a property, the first thing you have to look at is literally how much you're going to be paying in HOA fees. It's literally another rent payment for most places, especially near beach areas. And they literally make so much money off of people where they shouldn't. I mean, I don't like the idea of a homeowners association, period. So the fact that these people are stopping them, from building due to this bureaucracy, and they're very restrictive. If you don't agree with them, if you don't do what they say, they kick you out. You can't live there. So this is something that's, again, I think these are consequences that we're seeing in Lahaina that are consequences that would be seen all over the United States when things like this happen. Because this is built in our system. These are things, our infrastructure, not just the physical, but also, the bureaucratic infrastructure and how things are run is just not helping. It's not made to actually help the people. It's made to help these businesses above all. So when you talk about, being anti-big business, that's what we are talking about here. We're talking about being pro people having an ability to live their lives, make money, all of this. But this is why we advocate what I advocate. This is why, I'm politically where I am, because leave it to nobody but the corporate sector to exploit a disaster and literally screw these people over because they just want to make a buck. And that's what this is all about. And unfortunately, a lot of these people are going to be displaced because they can't afford to live there.
Yeah, and big ups to Jimmy Dore for allowing me to use his platform when I filled in for him as a host. That was an amazing experience, guys. Uh, Amazing experience to go on that show and be able to use his platform to elevate the message of what's going on in Lahaina. I was able to raise a ton of money for a lot of the people in Lahaina in those distribution centers. One of the distribution centers, we raised over $50,000, and thank you to Jimmy for allowing me to do that. Don't listen to people in the chat. This Kelly person who's saying some stupid stuff. People, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Me and Kurt are still in great. There was no issues between me and Kurt. Me and Kurt love each other, and we speak all the time. So don't listen to these people. They don't know what they're talking about like that. And thank you to Jimmy for allowing me to use that platform to elevate this message. Really, to tell you the truth, if it wasn't for that platform, I don't think I would have been able to go to Lahaina, fam. I had 6 days off. I asked Jimmy, I said, can I go there? And he's like, yeah, go do your thing. I threw up my PayPal, my Venmo, my Cash App, and people gave me the money and got me on the ground. So don't listen to these idiots over there who are saying whatever they're saying. And there's a lot of people that really hate me and Fee. They hate Fee and I for quite some time. She's not a Zionist. We're not going to pay attention to these idiots anymore and think, but don't listen to the hype, ladies and gentlemen. The haters are there, and they don't know what they're talking about.
Being a Zionist, man. If I'm being accused of being a Zionist, yeah, we need more Zionists than in that case, because like what I'm advocating is actually the opposite. It's funny when you get accused of being all sorts of things that are impossible for you to be. Insane.
So thank you. And Kurt was a big supporter too. Kurt wanted to come to Maui with me, but he couldn't because of his the scheduling and whatnot. But those guys were huge supporters of what's going on, and once again, and being able to use their platforms and their personalities to elevate the voices, because it really is not about us. It's not about the Convo Couch. It's not about Jimmy. It's not about Kurt. It's not about anybody. It's about the people of Lahaina and how can we help them out. And we were able to help them. We get direct funding right to them. So, thank you so much to everybody who supported us. And don't listen to those idiots in the chats, guys. They don't know what they're talking about. So I had an amazing time, an amazing experience, and I'm so thankful that I got that opportunity. And who knows what the future is going to hold. We'll see with the schedule coming up this year. But me and fam got to go to Venezuela. We got to go to Mexico. We got to go to India. We got to go to the United States. We got a lot of elections out there. So a lot of stuff in the future. Plus, starting my new channel. Fam started her new channel. There's a lot of great stuff for us in the future. I'm excited about my future, and I was excited to be able to do those things. Lahaina and Jimmy, amazing experience, guys, and I wouldn't change a damn thing. It really was truly heartwarming. So thank you very much, everybody.